Well, welcome to the Enterprise Marketer Podcast. I'm Pamela Muldoon. I am sitting in hosting on this session because I get to talk to one of my favorite people in content. His name is Noz Urbina. Noz, so great to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Excellent to be here. I'm having a great time so far.
And I can obviously read your bio, talk a little bit about what you do, but I always love to let the guests share a little bit about what they do. So, Noz, to set the tone, what is it that you're currently doing? I know you've worked for other companies. You're currently consulting for companies. You opened up your own shop, so to speak, just a few years ago. This is not your first time here at Intelligent Content Conference, where we are in Las Vegas. But but we're going to talk about some great content stuff today. But set the tone. What is it that you do for your clients?
So Urbina Consulting is what we call a network-based organization. So we're kind of lead consultants who have a very powerful value-added network of contractors and consultants that we work with that allow us to do global reach and basically very large-scale projects. What we try to say is we give a big five consultancy, or better, level of service more competitively, because we have a very efficient model, no downtime. We don't have big physical offices or anything like that. So what I do is I am the lead consultant, content strategist, and content modeler. So I'm coming in and I'm first on the beach, and I work out what the culture of the organization is like, what the key challenges are, and what kind of skill sets are we going to need. And then I put together a team which will be tailored to that business environment to take them forward. What we do a lot of is helping people go from a reasonably robust digital strategy or content environment and taking them to the next level. So most people come to us because they have bigger problems. So we'll work with banks, pharmaceuticals, mechanical engineering companies, medical devices, and they want to go from multi-channel to omni-channel. They want to go from having a strict marketing funnel with some simple stages to really having a customer journey-driven, customer-centric model where they're able to have a much more personalized conversation, but they want to do it at scale. And even a big enterprise has limits on resource, budget, time, money, people, skills. So they need a good plan for proving the point and then industrializing that out to the wider enterprise. So that's kind of our specialism, taking people that extra mile.
Well, and you've positioned a couple of things that I definitely want to branch out on. And because what I'm hearing as you share that, Noz, is you're taking kind of this foundation, if I can just kind of reiterate some of it back to you, you're taking this foundation. People are already doing good work in the content arena, right? It's good stuff. It's foundational per se, right?
They've got the fundamentals.
Yeah. So now it's time to get that more complicated, because the human experience as a consumer of content is complicated.
And broken.
And broken. And so there's a couple of things you shared. I want to talk about some definitions as we talk today. And then, of course, you shared a little bit about this customer journey, this journey mapping versus the customer buyer, it's almost like steps, right? We go the little squares with the arrows on your PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You go from step 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And we all know logically that's not how it works, but it's easy for us to dissect that and create from that, right? Because it's got this nice little pretty system.
Exactly.
So let's start there. And then I definitely want to come back to the multi-omni conversation, because that kind of integrates into this mapping, I guess, discussion. So first, tell me your definition of why this is a journey mapping, a customer journey mapping, and talk a little bit about the nuances of that, how it is complicated versus it's not linear. It's so much more complicated.
Absolutely. So I want to point out a certain basic contradiction in the way we talk as content professionals or as marketers. We say things like we're trying to build relationships, value-added relationships, and engaging conversations. But then we bucket people into lead, prospect, customer,
we give them
user
acronyms, advocate. MQLs, SQLs.
Exactly. And it's kind of like this big arrow from I don't know who you are to you give me money.
Right.
And now we
want to get to the money part.
Exactly.
Faster.
Faster the money. And now we feel like we're being really relationship based because we want to get you so hot that you're going to advocate for us.
We took your money, therefore we have a relationship.
Exactly. Right? You took your money, and now you're going to be so excited about that experience that you're going to tell other people to give us their money too.
Right.
So that I find very oversimplified. And I think it's when you can't do that and then say you're being customer centric and relationship centric, because putting me in those big buckets doesn't make sense for a brand relationship, which is going to be over time. If you literally want to get a one-off sale out of me, fine. But how many brands, and especially how many big brands, actually want that?
Right.
They want to bring you in for the long term and build that relationship,
Absolutely.
as they're saying.
Yep.
So that means you need to be saying, what am I doing in my life which you're relevant to? So rather than kind of coming in and just kind of pinging out these push messages, what we're doing with customer journey mapping and saying, what are the journeys the customer wants to go on?
Mm-hmm.
Not what journeys can we push them on? What are they trying to do in their life? What do they value? Where are they going? And where can we insinuate our brand in a way which adds something to that? So we're trying to, when we map out a customer journey, so if I do, like, it's very easy in banking, for example. So I want to get a house.
Okay. Yep.
First house, for going to university, moving out of my parents' house.
Sure.
And there's some, and then there's little journeys like I have to replace my lost card, which is less simple than logging in and doing a bank transaction. It's more complicated. It's actually a little bit of a journey to it and takes a couple weeks. So we have things that I want to accomplish. And so what we're doing when we do customer journey mapping is, rather than doing these really big high level buckets, we're looking at that and how that breaks down from the question of how do I afford my house, or how do I replace my lost card, to all the stages that play out. And how can we support those activities in those stages with content? If we put people in huge buckets, everything's very static.
Right.
Yeah. We have
Yep.
pre-sales material and we have post-sales material. And it's not so clean cut, because customers, you're trying to maintain an ongoing conversation. So if you kind of throw them over the wall and say, okay, well, they're customers now, they read post-sales material, that's not my job.
Right.
You're not serving them
Somebody
properly.
else in another department takes care of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very
And
good
so
point.
then you find that the customer ends up going, you were serving me very well. I've done my call to action. They don't say that, but
Right.
they've done a call to action. They've converted somehow. They've changed buckets, and now they're having a completely different experience, because we didn't organize things around their journey. We organized things around our departments
Right.
and those big life cycle stages which we assigned to them. So customer journey mapping is a way to get a lot more customer centric and say, what are customers trying to do? If they're at this stage of, about to register for their mortgage, or initial research for which restaurant they want to go to, how do we support that activity with content?
Okay.
So, and we did this yesterday in the workshop.
Yeah.
And we did restaurants as an example, and people were going, I never would have thought there's so many things that someone would ask about going to a restaurant. We just did three stages of a journey.
Okay.
And groups of 5. And each person is going, wow, all these other people at the table have all these things that they would want to know that I would have never wanted to know.
Interesting.
Wouldn't have occurred to me.
Yeah.
And so when we customer journey map collaboratively and hopefully cross-silo,
Right.
cross-functionally,
Absolutely.
we get all these other nuances of what our customers might need and when they might need it. So we can do targeting better, we can do personalization better, we can do persona-based marketing better, and we can build a better conversation with our customers.
And it kind of lends itself, because even as you're talking about these different scenarios, I'm visualizing that person, right? I'm visualizing the
Exactly.
person.
Exactly.
And I'm seeing them sit at a computer, have their mobile phone in their hand, possibly walk into the bank. Obviously, they want to walk into the restaurant, right?
Exactly.
So there is a 3-dimensional element here,
Yes.
which lends itself first to the definition process.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked off camera about this a little bit, Noz, and I think we're both pretty passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know you are. This idea of what multi-channel means versus omni-channel, because
Absolutely.
we, as marketers in general, tend
Mm-hmm.
to take a lot of definitions and use them incorrectly, or
Interchangeably.
we just give them them
Yeah.
a definition that everybody starts to latch onto, but it's not quite what we meant,
Yes.
right? So let's start there, because I can see how your customer journey mapping process is integral to understanding these definitions.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are putting people in these big buckets and you're organizing your KPIs and your incentives and your goals by those channels, which we often do. Even
Right.
big successful brands, they'll have the social team, product information team, content marketing team, etc. And they don't really talk to each other so
I
much.
know.
Yeah, they have their own goals, they have their own incentives, and they can be knocking their stuff out of the park. And so they can put this stuff out all on the different channels.
Yes.
In branch, in restaurant, in retail environment, app, social, print, events. They're all knocking it out of the park. But what happens is we could get those disconnects.
Yes.
You're managing multiple channels, and maybe even you can share some content across channels. And maybe you're even efficient in doing that. But if you're not lining up around the journey, as I move through it, my channels aren't helping each other.
Right.
So if I go to this and I read a white paper, does that white paper have a connection back to somewhere else, or does it just take me to the top level corporate domain? You know, does it just say mycompany.com and then I go there and there's nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or if I'm on social, it sends you somewhere. Does that give me more to drill down? Nielsen Group just did a study about researching a product, and they get to and he said, I went on my desktop because I thought on the big screen I'll be able to manage lots of different windows because I want to see how my new product interacts with my smartphone. And he gets there, and like many pages now, you get these big, huge, gorgeous hero graphics. This big scroll thing up. It looks a little bit silly on the big screen, honestly, because it's designed for mobile.
Right.
Yeah. So somebody's convinced them that it's mobile only is the way to go. And so then scrolling up, and there's these little blurbs, like there's feature, one paragraph, feature, paragraph, feature, paragraph.
He's call out boxes kind of thing.
Exactly, with a gorgeous picture next to it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's aesthetically, it's stunning. And then you get to the bottom, and the guy's like, I have nowhere to go from here. You've knocked out of the park your product description landing page.
Right.
It's got features and specs. I have no way to drill down.
Right.
I can't get that depth, and I can't continue my journey because you think that all you need to do is create that page and you've done your job.
Right.
So that's the big difference. So you can do that. You do it on one format, you do it on another format, and you're being a multi-channel king.
Yeah.
But if you're not looking at how that channel supports your let's say post-sales documentation, for example, or deeper pre-sales literature, or user-generated content, if you're not tying together those channels and they're not reinforcing each other, then you're not omni-channel.
Right.
Omni-channel is not being on all the channels, which is a common misconception as well. You don't have to be on Snapchat. You just don't.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Let's say you're on 3 channels. Do those channels help each other, or do they run as parallel discrete streams? That's the difference.
Now that's a really good point, because even my guess is, as you're going through this journey process, it's starting to tell you what channels are going to make sense, right? There's a kind of a cyclical process between the two. It's almost like a loop, right? Like the customer is going to feed the channel, and the channel is going to feed the customer. But we, as much as we really believe we know our personas and our customers, they're still independent thinkers, right?
Yeah, they're people at the end of the day.
They're still gonna, if we have them where they're gonna go step 1, 2, 5, 7, and they go, no, we're gonna do 2, 6, 4, 1.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, that's if we're talking about customer journey mapping. That frustrates me so much. I get into an organization and they have these idealized customer journeys.
Right.
They do this, they do this, they do this, they do this, they buy. Then they do this, they do this, and then they advocate. And I'm going, well, what if something goes wrong there?
Right.
And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing ever goes wrong. It's just this monorail to happy.
Right.
And so, there's no questions, there's no loop backs, there's nobody has any thoughts that go outside of off the rails. And so when we do customer journey mapping, I'm always the one going, well, what if that screws up?
Yeah.
Or what if that content doesn't satisfy that need? Where do they go? What other channel do they pick up? Do they go on chat? Do they call? And
well, there's also an assumption that they're always moving forward.
Exactly.
What if they want to move backwards?
Yeah,
or parallel?
They're unsatisfied.
We do that when we drive, right? We sometimes have to back up. We missed a turn, right? So I'm guessing we do this as consumers as well, right? Sometimes, oh, wait a minute, I have to back up. I didn't get as much as I thought I needed before I understood this.
I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I took a wrong turn.
And we don't give them necessarily the credit of that experience. Right?
I'll give you a very simple example. I've had multiple clients, and it's funny, in the workshop, I told this story. Someone said, me too. Right. So I've had multiple clients. They are doing that. They've got product A, they're doing content marketing, product information, documentation, all the good stuff, and everybody's doing fine. And they're doing the same thing for product B. And they have product-based teams that are, and then what's happening is the customer comes in, they have not really done a cross-product strategy, so the customer has no real assistance on comparing.
Right.
So the best you can get in some sites is you get those feature tables. So this one's got Bluetooth, this one's got NFC, this one's got USB. If I'm a customer, you're assuming I know whether I want Bluetooth or NFC.
Right.
Yeah. So giving me that table and doing a product comparison is not providing me comparative content to help me make a decision.
Right.
It happens all the time. Silos and channel thinking and these very valid, very sensible content requirements just don't come up.
Right. That's a really interesting point. I'm thinking about all the different softwares I've vetted over the years, and there's a lot of assumptive nature, but it's not even just softwares. We're here in Las Vegas. I actually live here in Las Vegas, and I'm finding the same thing with even loyalty tier cards, right? Like, you got to sign up for every card here in Vegas, or you don't get $2 off the buffet. This is very important, Noz.
Oh, thank you.
But even in loyalty card, there's assumptions that I understand what that means or what that point is. I'm not a member yet, or I'm not a deep-seated member.
Yes.
So I don't have the inside scoop. You've got to explain it.
Yeah.
But
you get pink rewards, and you're going, hey.
But to your omni-channel experience, what do I have to do to get that? I more than likely am going to go to the casino and stand in line and talk to a representative, somebody behind the counter, to get that information. Now, are they consistent with what's on the website, with what is on my mobile, if I'm looking at the app, or, all those different variances? So,
and are those channel handoffs clean?
Yes.
Is there a big lineup of people and you're not going to bother to get your answer because you've got to wait 15 minutes? Or do they have a little leaflet that has a much richer organization that they can hand you? Or do they have a short URL that you can type into a phone with 5 characters, and then you get a nice digital explanation or a video? So if you look at those processes from a customer-centric point of view, not from a kind of like a spreadsheet heat map point of view, you go, that's a human being and they have a question. What would happen?
Yes.
And so we have 2 channels and they have a clean handoff where one helps the other and enhances the other in a scalable way.
And moves me through my journey based on my journey, not your expectation of my journey.
Yeah. So that's
that's awesome.
That's what I'm doing these days. And because what I used to do was content structuring and modeling to help people be scalable and efficient. And I would come in and they say, this is what we're building. We need a model because we're copying and pasting, we're duplicating, we're wasting time and effort, and we can't do multi-format and multi-channel. And I said, great, okay, and I would model that, and then they would create this stuff. It'd be very efficient, be 3 times as fast and cost half as much, and I would leave.
Yeah.
Eventually, I started going, are you making the right stuff though?
Yeah.
I never, now you're making this stuff faster and cheaper, but is it the right stuff? You never showed me how you know that we should be making this at all. Is our content offering supporting our customer experience properly? Or are we now just going back to management saying we're knocking out our white papers at double speed now?
We've got an amazing process.
Yeah, exactly. We have an amazing, efficient, scalable process to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, but that also lends itself to another topic that you speak on, which is that efficiency, that leverage component. One of my favorite words, and whether it's in business or marketing or both, is leverage. Right? Do more with less, do more with less. And this is, I don't care what your size company is. This is a very important part, right? If you're small business or enterprise, your resources are tight. So you actually talk about the structure of developing content so that it can be, and here's another definition opportunity, Noz, it can be reused and or repurposed. So let's talk first about reuse and repurpose. Let's get those definitions out of the way because, again, we're guilty marketers of just throwing definitions around. And then let's talk a little bit just about how you do that or how you conceptually create this system to make life easier.
Absolutely. Okay, so reuse and repurpose. So you can reuse content in multiple ways. So you can reuse content by save as and tweaking a bunch of stuff and publishing 2 copies of something, or by copying and pasting. A lot of marketers are reusing when they do that.
Right. But we say repurpose.
Well,
a lot of times we mix up these definitions,
all being thrown
right?
Around.
Yeah.
So that reuse, where you've literally just kind of taken a paragraph and copy and paste it from a website to a white paper, we don't call that reuse in the intelligent content community.
Okay.
That's not reuse. That's copying and pasting.
Right.
Yeah. So when we say reuse, you're saying, I'm going to use this product overview or short blurb or etc. on this channel, on this deliverable, because it could be the same channel but two different deliverables,
Yeah.
two white papers. Yeah. But they're actually going to be linked together. So if there's content or facts or information in there or wording or messaging, and that gets updated, both of those deliverables will be simultaneously versioned up. So the best content is always put forward. I'll give you a really stupid example, like legal disclaimers. I had a client, they said, we've got to change all the legal disclaimers on all our public-facing documents. And the content department said, that'll be $250,000. And legal said, maybe it's not so important.
Right.
Because they weren't reusing, they were copying and pasting.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yes. Yep.
So that applies to everything. Feature descriptions, offers, anything. I've had a company who you went on the mobile site and it offered you a different price than if you went on the desktop site. Yeah?
Not good.
Exactly. So they're not reusing. When we say intelligent content reuse, it's actually the same asset that's being leveraged multiple times.
Okay. Yep.
Repurposing is not just across multiple assets of the same kind or multiple channels. It's for a different goal. So I'm writing an evergreen I'm writing a topical white paper about this event that's hot right now. You know, I'm coming to the Intelligent Content Conference, or Christmas is coming up, or Brexit just happened. So I'm writing something about this topical event. But in that, I could have definitions of things or processes that I describe, concepts that I talk about, and those could be valuable for other people for other purposes, which are not my purpose.
Okay.
So I'm going to reuse those in the same way. So
Yep.
I will reuse them. So if we can share updates, but I'm also going to reuse them across goals. So I have a new goal, which I'm trying to achieve, which is not the goal that was originally envisioned by the original creator. Maybe they're in a different department and they're running on a campaign model, or they're just simply trying to do a different thing in a different context, maybe for a different persona.
Yeah.
But they can reuse my content for their new purpose. So reuse plus new goal being achieved is repurposing. So I'm very careful about those two words.
And I think it's important that we're at a point where our industry is maturing to where we do need to really be cognizant of these definitions.
Yeah.
And not only just the basic definition, but how it can be used in practice.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of us from a consultancy standpoint that have to explain this and teach this
Yes.
to others that have a foundation. But if we don't, we're going to hear the word governance a lot here at Intelligent Content Conference,
yeah.
right? But we as an industry need to have our own governance
Yeah.
somewhat, right?
Yeah.
Of
We have to
how
talk to each other.
We discuss these things, train these things, and have a consistency across the board.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this happens. So I talk sometimes about Sir Isaac Newton. And Sir Isaac Newton was developing the field of physics, basically. And he had no words to describe things because no one had ever talked that way before.
Right.
So what he did is he took other words. So the definitions that you and I now have for mass, matter, motion, he just took those words and said, okay, you know what? This is what I'm trying to talk about. This is what this means. And he introduced a lexicon, and they just kept using it. And I'm sure it took a long time
Yes.
before your average
And he
person...
didn't have the internet either.
Exactly. Imagine how long it would have taken before your average person was using Sir Isaac Newton's definition of the word motion.
Right.
But it happened.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. We're covering, this is new ground. We've got artificial intelligence, omni-channel, big data. Yeah. So we have to develop new language. It will permeate and it will stabilize.
Well, and we are starting to take languages from other disciplines
Yeah. And apply them.
and make it our own, but modify it so that it's from a marketing speak.
Yeah,
Right. So,
absolutely.
but at the same time, its original intent or its original definition has to still be a part of that. Otherwise, we can't use it. Right. So, it is may you live in interesting times, right? Is that
Yeah.
that's the fortune cookie I usually get. So
I want to answer the rest of your question,
Yeah,
though, which
please
is
do.
about that industrialization bit. So we talked about reuse versus repurpose. What is it that you were using?
Right.
How do you set up your content for reuse
yes,
and
for
industrialization?
that leverage, that
Exactly.
systematic approach. Yeah.
And that has to do with what we call content modeling and content typing. So let's say we've got our deliverable white paper. That's fine. We've got our product landing page. We've got our at event leaflet that we hand out, blog post. And so these are deliverables.
Yes.
But within that, there are types of content. There are, in a case study deliverable, there could be the process that the business went through. This is their process. This person did this person did that, this person did that. Then we have reference information. Here's a table of features of our product. Then we have task information, how to register, how to set up your voice interaction with your smartphone. These types of information build up deliverables. So you have to have definitions of things smaller than white paper, blog post, case study if you're going to reuse anything. Because I'm just going to do my white paper and it'll be one big unit,
right?
Metadata at the top, keywords at the top, and you'll find it and you'll read it and you'll like it or you won't. But if we properly define chunks within that and say this chunk is just for this white paper, it's just for this audience, it's just for this event. This other little definition here, that's good for tons of people. It was written for the white paper, but it's useful all over the place.
Yeah.
If you haven't defined that and given people guidance and said, don't mix up your topical conf stuff in the same paragraph as your evergreen stuff, then they can't reuse it.
Yeah.
So you have to have that set of types that are defined with guidance for all of them, when they're used, how to write them. And you put all those types together in a structure, and that's your content model. So I do a lot of content modeling.
Wow, yes.
And without that, you don't have the discipline in the back end. So you spend $1 million or $10 million on your system. You have wonderful technology and algorithms, data sciences, but the content isn't ready.
Right.
You're trying to push.
You're cramming it into the technology.
Yeah. So you got a round peg and you're trying to hammer it into a square hole. So we got to show people how to make a square peg, a triangular peg, an octagonal peg, and then they can slip through the holes.
So you can mix and match accordingly.
And then you can automate.
So it's like the granimals of content marketing.
I have no idea what a granimal is.
I'm totally dating myself. But I love this because it also means you're creating content with more intent. Mm-hmm. And it's coming from a team approach. It's coming from a multi-departmental approach, which is what we should be, ideally, which is where we should be going.
We often start within a department and a team, but that's life.
But yes, we have a dream. We have a dream that all departments will be involved. Well, Noz, I know that the folks that get a chance to sit in on your presentations will always walk away with something. I consider you
very much
someone who I've been fortunate to know you for a couple of years, and you've got an innovative and always thinking approach to content, and you're just an absolute joy to talk to. So, Noz Urbina, Urbina Consulting, thank you so much for being a part of Enterprise Marketer. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Did you know 70% of Twitter users watch videos found in their newsfeed? Here's a tip. Use visuals in your tweets. People are 3 times more likely to engage with a tweet that includes a video. Create short, visually entertaining videos to grab your followers' attention in their timelines. Quickly and easily publish videos to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at once with Brightcove Social. Learn more at brightcove.com.